I have just finished turning a pen-pencil set in oak. Now, I've turned them rather bold, and by bold I mean the diameter is probably a little bigger than it actually has to be. But at least you get to see that nice oak. Now I have two more pen-pencil sets. So, the second one I'm planning to turn in mahogany, and the third one I'm planning to turn in purple heart. Now, what is unique about this mahogany is the fact that the grain runs this way. Normally, the grain would run this way in a blank. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this is going to turn. You see the end grain here. Normally, you don't have end grain on the side of a pen. Now, those of us who have been doing woodworking for any length of time, we know that a piece of wood that has the grain running this way, the wood is very strong. Now, I couldn't snap that even if somebody put a gun to my head. However, this, because the grain runs this way, well, I'm not going to try, but I know I could easily snap this. And once I get a hole drilled up through it, it's going to be even weaker. And also, I'm afraid that when it's turning in the lathe and the chisel catches on it, there's a chance that it's going to break out. And I don't want to risk that. So what I'm going to do is, on the mahogany pieces, I'm going to do the cactus juice thing. And the cactus juice, once it sets and cures, is going to act like a glue. It'll permeate down through all the capillaries, and it'll just sort of glue this thing together. Now, it's still not going to be as strong as this, but I'll bet you it's going to be like 10 times stronger. Anyway, we'll give it a try, see what happens. Well, it's the next morning, and I'm going through all my little packages here to make sure I've got all the parts and everything, and I want to get everything all lined up, get ready to start cutting the blanks. And here I see that the mechanism from one of my little mechanical pencils is broken. And so as I'm looking at it, all of a sudden I notice, if I can pick it up here, two little leads come out. Well, as it turns out, that's the way it's supposed to be. This end wasn't broken off, it was pulled off. It's supposed to pull off. And then you can store extra leads up in there. Now, it's amazing. I've made several of these pencil kits, and I did not know that. Well, you're never free from surprises until you're dead. And I'm sure glad I'm still getting surprises. Now I just know I'm going to get a comment from somebody saying that my fingers were just way too close to the blade, and they'd be right. But it's like I've mentioned before. If you keep your eye on the spinning blade, you're not too likely to stick your finger in it. It's sort of like the red-hot element on your kitchen stove. You're not going to touch it if you're looking at it. Now here's another little tip that you're probably aware of. When you have to do stuff like this, never let anybody stand close behind you. You know, looking over your shoulder to see what you're doing. Because Murphy's Law says they'll bump you for sure. You know, Murphy's Law, if anything can go wrong, it will. And another time that you definitely don't want anybody close behind you is when you're doing something at the lathe. Because as you know, the slightest increase in pressure on that chisel, and you're going to get a catastrophic catch so violent that the neighbor's 2 doors down will jump. Now here's something that you may or may not have noticed. You'll notice how this hand is riding on the miter fence. There's very little chance that my hand is going to go this way into the blade. And with this hand, what I was doing is as I was going along, I was pulling out this way. And so then, when the thing finally gets cut, my hand automatically wants to go out like this. Now I know I exaggerated there, but you get the idea. You know, I fully realize that there's a lot of stuff down here that can hurt you real bad. And even if you're careful, you can get hurt. If you want to be 100% safe in your workshop, and you got a project that's going to involve almost any of these tools, you want to be 100% safe? Don't get out of bed in the morning. However, if you want to live a little bit dangerously, and you got to do something that's a little bit dangerous, do it safely. Well, it makes sense to me anyway. Now on the lighter side here, you can't help but notice I've got this little nick that I cut into my miter gauge fence. And I know that in the past people have asked me, and I'll probably get comments in the future about it, so I may as well tell you what happened. I wanted to do that. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.